Areas have persisted for a week amid firefighters' effort to contain the inferno, which had killed at least 24 people by Sunday. Officials say more than 7,000 structures have gone up in flames in what has been called the Eton fire, including the home of a firefighter. VOA's Jenia Lulot met with him and his family.
Isaac Baeze and his family survey the ruins of their home, which burned to the ground during the Eton fire in the city of Altadena. Baeze, a CAL FIRE firefighter with more than 20 years of experience, says this fire has been unprecedented.
I've never seen, a force of nature like this. The winds and the dryness.
Baez's wife, Rosary, recalls how they received an evacuation notice Tuesday evening, but didn't think much of it. The fire was far away and small. Still, they packed just a few items, not expecting they would return to nothing. In the morning, Baeze and his friend came back to try to save the house, but there was no water.
We were just like, oh my God, we can actually save this. And we went for the hose and there was no water. And so before you knew it, just more things started catching on fire. And I drove away, and I remember looking in my rearview mirror and I could see, the backside of the house going up in flames and just thinking man, maybe if I had water, I would have been able to put these, little spot fires out and, prevented my house from burning up.
Fire crews have encountered dry hydrants or low water pressure in efforts to extinguish the Eton fire, along with another large wildfire known as the Palisades fire. California Governor Gavin Newsom announced an investigation into the issue. Currently, fires in Los Angeles, including the Palisades fire, cover about 150 square kilometers, with more than 150,000 people under evacuation orders. Dry, fast-moving Santa Ana winds spreading the flames are picking up again on Monday, says Los Angeles Fire Chief Kristen Crowley.
A red flag warning is in effect and will remain until 6 p.m. Wednesday evening. Strong Santa Ana winds are also expected to last through Wednesday, with the strongest winds occurring on Tuesday.
Baez's family is staying with friends, waiting for the payout from insurance companies, and have set up a GoFundMe site to raise money for expenses. The Baezes say they're planning to rebuild.
We said we were all going to come back and rebuild and bring back, our neighbors. This is the community. Our kids would play at the end of the cul-de-sac with the other kids. We'd invite each other to birthday parties, and we were very close.
The Los Angeles community overall is coming together in a time of disaster to help displaced families as well as to support firefighters. Emergency shelters and fire stations are overflowing with food and clothes, to the point that authorities have had to issue a notice. They now are only accepting monetary donations. Jenia Dulo, VOA News, Los Angeles.
Today we are discussing about the opening of schools in Zimbabwe on Tuesday. Those attending boarding schools started traveling to their respective schools today. Minister of Primary and Secondary Education, Mr. Tonderai Moyo, says teachers can conduct extra lessons outside school premises. But he urged that parents must report schools that are forcing them to buy school uniforms from the schools only.
If they produce uniform at school, the price must be competitive. The price itself should be lower than those people who are engaged in that business. Because it's produced at a school, why should the price be high? So our policy is that school authorities should not coerce or force students to purchase uniform at school. That disadvantages the parents and the students. So we have a policy, a liberal policy, where schools should not force them, but parents should be allowed to buy or procure uniform from any retail shop. Where they find the price competitive, then they can buy from those shops. It's shocking. Just last week I got the news that at one school in Mutasa district, a blazer was going for $80, a blazer for a Form 1 student. It's shocking. A suit can go for $25. You see, Honorable Minister, when wearing it beautiful, if I were to tell you how much I bought this suit, less than $80. But here I am, I'm smart. So a blazer going for $80. So we are going to investigate that school. I will not give you the name of the school, but if you want to see me after, then I will tell you the name of the school. We are saying, yes, school business units are important so that they can raise funds for school feeding, they can raise funds for teaching, learning materials. That's very good. But there is no law to force parents. So we are saying our law is that parents are free to buy anywhere at any retail shop.
That there was the Minister of Primary and Secondary Education, Mr. Tonderai Moyo, in Harare. Primary and Secondary Education Deputy Minister, Ms. Angeline Gata, also spoke to Studio 7 reporter Kostan Komo about the new curriculum, the heritage-based education, and how different it is from the continuous assessment learning activity, CALA, which was scrapped off.
It's an exercise that we're doing in the Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education. At the point of collection and the point Saka, you find Kuti, I am here. The minister is also getting into schools to see how the children have been received, and my borders kazhinji kwavanokwirira mabhazi ndipo panapo saka kwakungoring interaction with the families and the children varokwira mabhazi kupetuka kuzvikora kwavo ndodonzo rezuva ranhasi.
Minister, mungatitsanangurirawo here nezveheritage curriculum 5.0 kuti yakakoshera chii?
Heritage based curriculum yakakosha zvakanyanyisa pakuti it is fostering innovation kuvana vedu so that we create vana vane maskills atinozoshandisa muupenyu so that they can create the environment and the country that they want through innovation.
That there was Primary and Secondary Education Deputy Minister Angelina Gata speaking to Studio 7 reporter Kostan Komo in Harare. We also spoke to Harare parent Mrs. Zikomberero Chandigere, who complained about the new curriculum, the Heritage-Based Education 5.0, which is being introduced this year.
School yenge yakaoma zvayo asi toda kungotenda Mwari wakatifundisa kuti vana vedu vagone kubuda vachienda kuchikoro nyange zvairema asi vana vedu vabuda vaenda tabhadhara mafizi vana vaenda zvimwe zvacho unotombosendeka kusaidi zvinenge zvisina kukosha nekuti education yemwana ndiyo yakaita sei yakakosha nokuti ukada kutarisa kuti ndoda zveChristmas kumhanisana nezveChristmas tinoita asi chakakosha upenyu hwevana wedu future yevana ndiyo yakakosha nyaya yekurikuramu isusu sevabereki vari kutotanga nevana zvikunzwa kuti kwane heritage vana wedu each and every time panointroducwa new curriculum kuchikoro vana vedu ndo vanoafectwa nayo pekutanga pakachinjwa futi ndo vakatanga nekala ezvinezvi ndo vari kutanga futi ama O level ndo vari kupinda futi mune heritage yatikuziva kuti tichavabata kana kuti zvichamira sei.
That there was a Harare parent, Mrs. Zikomborero Chandigere, speaking to Studio 7's Kostan Komo in Harare. Please stay tuned as we take a short break. We'll be right back.
In times of change, when the world seems uncertain and what we hear doesn't reflect what we see, we seek the truth. When we are told only part of the story, we lose trust. In moments of crisis, our dreams, hopes, and wishes for a better tomorrow depends on a free press. At Voice of America, we bring you the stories that people take risks to see. We connect the world and unite it with truth. At Voice of America, we show you the whole picture.
For those that have just joined us, please note that we are streaming live on all our Facebook pages, VOA Shona, VOA Studio 7, and VOA Ndebele. We're also live on YouTube at VOA Zimbabwe. And we are joined for this discussion by Mrs. Evanice Monando, the director of the Female Student Trust Zimbabwe, and Mr. Robson Chere, the Secretary General of the Amalgamated Rural Teachers Union of Zimbabwe, ATUZ. Welcome to the program.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. How are you, Mazila?
I'm good. I'll start off with you, Mrs. Monando. Can you tell us what are you seeing on the ground in terms of the opening of schools?
Thank you very much. Today it was a very busy day. And those were going to boarding schools, were returning to their schools. And yes, it was indeed something that was very touching. To see the parents really struggling, especially preparing for the kids to have what we call the food that will eat when they go to the boarding school. So some parents that I've interacted with, I'm happy that the minister is also spoken about, how what they are doing as a ministry. But what we have discovered is that they are schools like the private schools, they are schools like the mission schools, that are not really directly controlled by the schools. And they are at least that in terms of, requesting the things that are beyond the far reach of the parents. For example, small issues like the levies that are always coming up with, like that they've agreed with the AGM. You really find out that the parents would have paid the full fees amount. But if you leave that small amount, you leave something, you are not allowed to enter into classroom. So it's aside of the ministry, because the ministry is saying no student will be returned back to their homes, even if they don't pay enough fees. But we just think that it's something that is spoken about. But the enforcement at the ground is not like the same. So the parents are saying, it's very difficult in this time where we don't have, the economy is really difficult for us parents. And I'm also a parent mind here, and I'm also affected in the same situation that is happening on the ground. So the enforcement part of it, what is the ministry doing at the school, really to ensure that kids are not sent back to school, from school, without paying school fees. So the situation is what 50-50. There are parents managing really to send back their kids to school. But I think the situation is around fees, the jobs and fees that are keeping on, being charged, which is far beyond the reach of the most parents that are residing here in Zimbabwe.
Thank you so much there. I'll come to you, Mr. Chere. What is your comment on the new heritage curriculum that has been introduced and supported by the Education Ministry? We heard them speaking earlier on that everything is on course. What's your comment? Hello, Mr. Chere. I think we...
yes.
Carry on. Yes. I was asking about the new heritage curriculum that has been introduced. We heard earlier on the Education Ministry saying that they've educated people and everything is good to go. But what is happening on the ground?
As Amalgamated Rural Teachers Union of Zimbabwe, through wider consultation with our members and also our parents as well as learners, when it comes to the new curriculum, we saw it's not fit for the educational ministry to come and impose a new curriculum to the nation at a time where they've not consulted, where they've not put in place preparation measures actually that will help to aid that curriculum to be viable. I want to be clear to the nation in terms of this new curriculum. The new curriculum, which is said to be the active-based curriculum, came as a directive or a command to the education sector, that the education stakeholders last year said 10, but it was not actually a product of stakeholder input, where the teacher could fit in, where the parents could fit in into that curriculum. So at the end of the day, that curriculum will be very difficult to implement, considering that they haven't even done training to the teachers going to be implementing that curriculum. So it boggles the mind that the curriculum is there, black and white on the paper, but the person who is going to be delivering that curriculum is not well informed. And the syllabi has been developed. The textbook or the sources of material of learning that are supposed to be actually facilitating the learning to the learners has not been put in place. So we are in a situation where education is being tempered around. This will remind the nation of the days of Nokora, when he came up with a new curriculum which has no even any budget material to follow it, where we introduced ICT, when schools were not even fully even electrified, and we introduced it as a compulsory subject. So we are saying any new curriculum that must come through stakeholder input, whether it will be viable to implement it, and whether it is good for our nation going forward, and politicians masquerading as civilians or as public officials coming in to detect in matters of education where they've got limited knowledge of. And we are talking about a serious important sector of our nation, education, which will actually help to uplift and develop the society. But we are seeing, and we end up seeing that this is just an area to them where they think that they can chamber about it to such an extent that we can produce brainwash people who brainwash their kids, who will not actually focus on the developmental issues of our nation. So it is really difficult for teachers to implement it, and they are told to actually declared this week and educational week, where we are going to interact with the teachers, with learners, on important ways, alternative ways of serving the educational sector, which is on the verge of collapse.
Thank you so much there. Ndombodzokera kwamuri amai Munando, tiri kunzwa vacheri vari kutaura pamusoro pecurriculum itsva yeheritage curriculum. Imi semubereki uyezve muine sangano rinoshanda nevanasikana vanoenda kuzvikoro, muri kunyatsonzwisisa here nyaya yecurriculum itsva iyi, uyezve zvakamira sei muchitarisa mamiriro akaita zvinhu nezvamakamboona zvichiitika munguva yapfuura?
Isu sesangano rinoshanda nevadzidzi vasikana vekumakoleji, ndakatitarisa hangu ndichiasesa Zimbabwe kubva pataibva kuna 2019 nekunga vacheri vanyatsotaura kuti takabva pa-2020 curriculum tapinda mune zvekala, now tamu heritage. Ndiri kuti inini government yandiona sekuti ine chinangwa kenaise pachirungu vision, ine muono wakanaka, but havasi kupa time ebreather yekuti let's conceptualize. Handiti ndida kutomboti ndichitarisa kubva kuno vakabva kucompetence vachienda mukala nezvinotamu heritage, tikatarisa mastudents aya kuti zveshoshuwa pane chavakagraspa here, and uyezve sehurumende vakakwanisa kuativa chii kubva from one curriculum tichienda pane saka isiri kuona sekuti zviri kuitika kai zviri kumhanyiswa mberi nyaya yekuti tikatoona kuti mastudents acho as a country chii chatinoonongedza kuti takashanda pavana vedu, because tichibva mune chimwe tichienda pane chimwe. Competency-based curriculum ichi tichitarisa sesangano reFSM yanga yakanaka, chibva yanobata yapinda mukala, kala yakatemesa panga pasina ruzivo rwakanyanya kufamba sei, even vadzidzisi chaivo taiona vachikombera nezvenyaya yekala. Papaisi basa sevabereki vabvunza kuti semubereki tikapinda mudambudziko rekuti kupinda makala kuti vamwe vedu taachirambosvika malevhel iwayo ekudzidza zvinombofamba sei. Saka pakaita rules ane bongozozo munyika vakaona kuti aizvekala zvakona 2020 bhezi yangouya inditori nemwana achanyora form 4 neform 6 ikufamba sei naimazolasi tiri kubva kuti
batai makadaro tiri kudzoka kwamuri. Thank you so much there. We're coming back to you, our guest, but let me take a caller. Hello, caller Makadi.
Hello.
Hello, Makadi, and you caller? Aiwa, kuri right. Tiri kutaura nani muri kupi caller?
Ya, muri kutaura na Wellington Tanaiwa ndiri kuSouth Africa.
Taurai tinzwe, muri kuona sei nyaya yekuvhurwa kwezvikoro uyezve nyaya yekarikuramu itsva iyi?
Nyaya yekarikuramu itsva iyi nemari dzakaoma idzi hadzitombobatika even mabhokisi ezvi zveshe zvakadhura mabhokisi echikoro ari kudhura.
Saka muri kuti poitwa sei?
Zvatombogona watomboti aishe even hurumende yachona.
Aiwa, imi mune vana vari kuenda kuchikoro here kumusha?
Kuchikoro kwacho vari kuenda but even mari school fees yacho hapatorina mari school fees yacho nekuti wanga uchienda kuchikoro because mari school fees yacho haisitomboripo everything zvacho zvakatoongooma kuZimbabwe kuti tingaita sei.
Aiwa, thank you. Okay, thank you so much caller tinotenda. Coming back to you Vachere, muri kunzwa zviri kutaurwa nakola. Imi se vanoshanda zvakare muri kumaruwa zvakamira sei pavarairidzi vekumaruwa?
Mamiriro azvakaita haana kumira mushe nekuti tiri kutarisa panguva inobva varairidzi vari kuhora ihoro iri pasi tikatarisa iya inonzi poverty bottom line. Tiri kuona kuti varairidzi vedu cheuviri chaicho chiri kunetsa kuti vavani kutodzokera kuchikoro kuti vanodzidzisa vachikwanisa. Ndosaka tichisana nokuita varairidzi kuti hurumende yaidowo machita allowance at least $200 allowance yekuti vaende nekuti vanhu vari kuwana mihoro mishomanini zvakanyanya. Havana mari economic situation irimo muZimbabwe vanhu veshe vari kuona mutolo yakauya nematemo ematex haana chaari kusiya ende tikatarisa mari dziri kubhadharwa makambani. Saka turnout yesikoro mangwana evana inenge yakadzikira zvakanyanyisa. Titarisa zvinyaya yekara nyaya yenew curriculum iripo iyi itange tichiomesera kunyange varairidzi kuti basa ravo nemazvo kunyange vachirigona nekuti chiri kuimposwa. Zvinobva zvatipa kuti muono isu sesangano rinomira varairidzi kuti public education sector yedu yava kuurayiwa nevanhu vanofanenge vachiona kuti public education sector iri kuamba zvakanaka here. Kana tikutaura public officials, when you are talking of the ministerial officials who are supposed to be presiding, vafanenge vari kuona kuti hurumende yedu vanhu vari kuwana dzidzo yakanaka here munyika. Asi tozoona kuti isisu wai vari kuuraya tikaita ongororo yakanyanya tisangani tikaona kuti vanhu ava vazhinji vacho ndo vava nemaprivate college. Maprivate college ava vari kuchaja mazimari akawanda. Saka nyaya yavo yava pakuti vakuda kuuraya education system nekuti vanhu vanokwanisa kuwana nekuti vari kuda profit. Saka kuti ivo vana vavo vachoni kunyange tiri kuti ndovanenge vafanenge vachimirira public education system yemusikoro. Hakuna mwana wavo ari kunonyora intake musikoro. Vana vavo vari kunyora Cambridge maprivate school. Saka havasina hanya nedzidzo. Vari kungoti chero vawana profit pakupedzisira kwezuva ndodonzo ravo ravari kuda kunge vachiuraya public education yedu munyika. Saka zvakuda kuti tivabereki nevarairidzi vari mumaro tisangane pasi tiise musoro pamwe nezvatiri kuita svondo rino rakazikira kutinenge riri education week. Tichisangana toona kuti tingasevhe sei dzidzo yedu iyo yaakuondomwa nevanhu vari kunge vachiita kuti vatarise homwe dzavo panyaya idzi.
Aiwa, thank you there to Mr. Chair. I think we lost him on the line, but that's fine. We come back to you, Ms. Munando. You heard what our caller there from South Africa said about the situation back home in Zimbabwe. He says he's literally trying to scrap together money for school fees for his child going to school in Zimbabwe. What's your take?
The fees are very high, and I agree with the caller. And because, you know what, the fees are not homogeneous. It's like they are paid depending on the school. But we just want to thank the government. I think the government schools, they are really charging a reasonable fee than the private and the mission schools. So when we look at those who are based in rural areas, we have been a very tough year. 2024 was a very difficult year. We had drought, we had no food on the table. Now we are talking about school fees, funding kids to go to school, especially in those who are in rural areas. It is very difficult because the fees are not changed. They are not considering that even in rural areas, things they like difficult. The drought, yes, in every area is different when we are also comparing with rural areas, because rural areas there are a lot of things that they require to use with money, and at least here in the urban areas things are like much better. Mm-hmm. So I think what the government needs to do in terms of really making sure that we leave no one behind. I think that's the mantra of our country. Let's look into those underprivileged societies and also not down easy. Not just have a blanket, a policy that will affect everyone else without looking in terms of our privileges and also our weaknesses and our poverty in our different areas. So it's really a cause of concern because most of the people in rural areas are dropping out of school because the parents are now desperate. Yes, the rain, they've just received the rain, but we haven't yet harvested in terms of really complementing our income within our household. So it's something that is very difficult. And now coming even to urban areas, transport is very expensive, food is very expensive, and for those kids that are also traveling from one city to another to access schools, and plus school fees, it's really a burden to our parents because even transporters, some of them now we have the in-drive, these are private transporters who are carrying kids from and to school. They are charging very exorbitant fees, and it's very risky because it's not safe even to also get our kids being driven around by those private. And because the schools are really failing to provide adequate transport to our kids. So, yeah, my parents have agreed with the caller from South Africa. They are in a very desperate situation. And I feel the government should also look into that and see what is prevailing on the ground before we impose things that can work to other classes and also providing other classes the right to education.
Thank you so much. I'm not sure if we still have Mr. Chere on the line. Mr. Chere, your last word?
My last word directed to the general citizens of Zimbabwe who are progressively in nature as such. Without education, our nation will not be going anywhere. We can't destroy the future of our nation and the in terms of building our nation on education. So every rightful mind to think in session, it's right time that we confront the crisis in the education sector.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Unfortunately, Mr. Chere, time is not on our side. So thank you to our guest, Mrs. Eva Nice Monando, the director of the Female Student Trust Zimbabwe, and Mr. Robson Chere, the Secretary General of the Amalgamated Rural Teachers Union of Zimbabwe, ATUZ. And also to all our valued listeners who are streaming with us, thank you very much. Let's meet again tomorrow. I'm Marvelous Mhlanga Nyahuye in Washington, signing off.